That sounds like my house today.
A laptop, I don't know if you use the iPad. Okay, cool. So go to options, then
Hey, what's going on, Larry? No, not too bad. Just in one more meeting.
How we doing? Getting there.
Yeah, we are getting there. I say we give it one more minute because there's a bunch of people joining.
Yeah, I see those
I think
numbers
I
still
shut-
going up.
Yeah, I think I shut down the waiting room, so everybody should just jump right in now.
Is that your Giants mug or is that just an NFL mug?
You know what? It says, awesome dad.
Oh, okay. It looked like NFL branding.
It is, but it says awesome dad. It's stolen from my kid's school. She bought it there.
Your kid stole
It
it
wasn't
from school?
stolen from the school, but they stole it from the NFL and printed it at my kid's school.
I see. Did you get express written consent from the NFL?
I didn't. So actually, this is recorded. So nobody saw
Oh,
this
boy.
mug.
Well, you didn't make it. You were just the recipient of it
Exactly.
being stolen.
I was the
Yeah.
recipient of stolen property.
Good afternoon, Matt and Lee. It's great to see you both.
Megan, how are you?
I'm well.
Looks
I'm,
beautiful behind you.
Pretty dry here in Florida. Yes, this is
yeah.
my beautiful virtual clouds.
Oh man, yeah. It looks like Japan.
It actually
almost.
looks like whole berry fermentation with a little bit of like dry ice in there.
Yeah,
Kind
good
of
job.
That's exactly what it is, Lee.
That's what she was.
How did
It's
you
exactly
know?
what she was going for.
I
Those are
also
fine.
want to say hi to Matt Lorman. He and I had the chance to visit Zuccardi just 2 weeks ago, and it was
nice.
so
Hi
great
there,
to
good to see
connect
you.
with some colleagues that we've only, virtually connected. So it's great to meet in person for the first time. So
Great. How was the
hi,
visit?
Matt.
Was fantastic, I assume, right?
It was incredible.
It was a dream. It was.
Hey, Matt.
best
Hey, Lee. Hey,
Good.
Megan.
Arjun, how
Hi,
are you?
sorry I'm a little late. Doing well, Matt. It's a long time no see.
I know, very long time.
Nice to see everybody. And nice to see some familiar faces. Appreciate everybody. Looks like we've got over 100 people already on. So I think we'll kick it off. Again, apologies for being a minute or two late, and want to send our well wishes to Megan and the rest of our teams in the Southeast area. I recently spoke to my folks who are down there in Greenville, South Carolina, but it's not the same compared to, they lost power, but it's not the same compared to what other folks are dealing with. So if there's probably some people obviously that weren't able to get on today, Matt, because of the storms.
Yeah.
So we'll just hope everybody's safe. And Megan, any local updates on the weather on your side? You see,
Yeah, where I am, so I'm in Southwest Florida. So the Gulf Coast did obviously see some of the impacts of the hurricane, but primarily to it'd be helpful if I was off mute. I was just about to say that I'm based in Southwest Florida, and the Gulf Coast was affected by the hurricane. It seems that it's mostly in the Big Bend area of the Panhandle and St. Pete, Tampa Bay. There is some flooding in the coastal regions of the Lee and Collier counties. So I'm waiting to hear throughout the day from the team, but sounds like everyone from the team is faring okay. And hopefully everyone is in a safe place and just taking care of themselves and their families. So
good. Good. Well, thank you for that update. And that's clearly at the top of our minds right now. But usually with these calls, they bump up exactly at the end because Lee has so much wonderful information, as well as Matt. And not only is it knowledgeable, but it's applicable immediately. That's what we love about the Winesellers University classes. Literally the next day, we can apply the knowledge because it's sales focused. So Winesellers staff, Matt and Lee, thank you. Thank you. And we will pass it to you to start.
Okay, great. Thank you, Arjun. We appreciate it. Megan and team in Southeast, obviously, yeah, we were going to start that way. So don't think Arjun stole our thunder. We were going to start to make sure everybody was okay and get an update. That was our plan. But yeah, we definitely, everybody's in our thoughts and prayers, and the landfall was a pretty big hit there, it looked like. So I know, Lee, you wanted to make a new introduction. We had somebody else assisting us to create this Winesellers University. So Lee is going to introduce her. We have a new person at Winesellers that's involved with portfolio management and education under Lee. So Lee, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, so we've invested in some more human capital, and not to sound not personal, but glad to have Heather Durham on board. She comes to us right out of graduate school with her MBA from the Burgundy School of Business. So right there in the wine world in France. And she also has her diploma from the WSET. So she's wine smart and book smart, and hopefully some street smarts here too. We'll get her out on the streets working with you guys. Heather, do you want to say hi so everybody can see your smiling face?
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. I'm the human capital. But no, I did get to meet Megan and Matt as well on the Zuccardi trip. But yeah, I'm excited to be here with Winesellers and working with Winebow. So yeah, it's been good.
And Heather was
Welcome.
instrumental. Heather was instrumental in helping put this together, as is Michelle Moreno is with us again today, and you'll hear from her for sure.
Hi, everybody.
Michelle, yeah.
All right.
So
great.
Matt, do you have the presentation downloaded, and we'll get going?
I do.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, everybody see that?
Looks good.
Perfect.
Yes.
All right, so this will be our last and final Winesellers University of this year. So our third installment. We're excited. Thanks for the flexibility. I know this was postponed a couple of weeks, but I think it's still appropriate and perfect timing for us. So this last installment is going to be about holiday selling. And we're going to have a little fun with it, where we will discuss some of our wines that fit into specific holidays. We'll talk about the history of holidays, and we'll also kind of go into some current trends that are happening in the wine business now. But as my high school English teacher used to tell me, just write what you're going to say. Don't tell me what you're going to say. So I won't tell you about this. We'll just move forward. All right. So Winesellers, everybody knows us, but I know there are also some new people here. I think it would be appropriate for us to lay out there that we are 100% family owned. We have had a long partnership with Winebow. For those of you new to Winebow, we're with you guys in 14 states. And really it predates even Winebow, where we had partnerships with the regional distributors that were then purchased and became part of Winebow. So there is a long history dating back with the Sager family and Winebow and the distributors pre-Winebow. So we certainly think all the world of you guys, which is why we do these. We invest a lot of time and resource into building these presentations, and we appreciate your dedication and attention to these as well. So most of you know our timeline. We're going to dig into a little bit of our brands, but we have been around since 1977. We are based in Chicago. We represent about 55 brands. Virtually all of those are with you guys in the 14 states we're with you. And we're excited to continue the partnership and to learn some more here. So that's the way the portfolio lays out. Obviously, we are a worldwide company. Our largest and most important supplier is 100% Santa Julia and Zuccardi, which is owned by the Zuccardi family out of Mendoza, Argentina. But we have a multitude of wines from all over the world that we represent, and why we can do presentations like this, because we have a lot of things we can talk about and a lot of wines that fit with a lot of different categories. Here's the states we're with you in. So all of you are from some of these states, I imagine. And you know, it's about 300,000 cases across these states, and we certainly are continuing to grow and add brands, add people, add resources. One thing we did not mention, but we have a new hire starting in the state of Georgia on Monday. So you'll get an announcement from us if you haven't heard that as well, but we will have a new person in Georgia. So anybody here that is in the Georgia region, you will see a new Winesellers person that'll be hitting the streets in Atlanta and all around Georgia coming soon. So thank you. All right, so holidays and selling wine by the numbers. So we're going to dig into a little bit of the trends currently. You know, I think one of the things that all of us, as we started to put these together, started to think about was that there's a lot of, you know, negative being talked about the wine business and the trends in the wine business and what consumption looks like. But I think most importantly, and something that we all would like to get across, and we truly believe, is that, you know, neither of us are the biggest of companies in the wine business, right? We are not saturated. We are not in every account. So none of us are stuck to what the trend is, right? Us being, you know, consumption being down 9% doesn't mean our business is down 9%, doesn't mean we have to be down that or more, because we have plenty of other customers to go see. So part of the reason we do these Winesellers University is to take a more strategic approach to selling and not just run around and see what happens, right? Not throw mud against the wall and see what sticks. So that's what this is all about for us, and why we want to dig deeper. So some of these trends don't look great, but we're going to find the opportunities within the trend, and we're also going to talk about some interesting ways that you can potentially build your business. One thing, you know, just appropriate from my past anyway, when I first started selling wine, so I spent 10 years in restaurants, and I've been on the import and distribution side for, you know, just under 20 years since then. But when I first started as a distributor sales rep in downtown Boston, which those of you that know downtown Boston, you probably know there is no major retailers. So my business was predominantly on premise with a small amount of boutique retail. There's really high-end fine wine shops in Boston, but nothing big and nothing volumetric in Boston proper, which is a small city. My point being is I remember sitting in my first sales meetings in like August and September, and we did them every Friday. There were monster sessions from, you know, 8 in the morning until 4 p.m. And then we'd have to try to run around and get all our stuff done with our accounts afterwards. But I remember I kept hearing one meeting, OND, and I had no idea what that was. It meant nothing to me. It was verbiage that I was like, what is this? I wrote it down. I was like, what are we talking about here? And then later I found out, of course, October, November, December, the importance of what October, November, December was and what it actually meant. And I always said to myself, I'll never be that person who uses verbiage that nobody understands. So just in case there's new people that don't know a lot about retail or haven't been in the wine business long, when we discuss OND, we're talking about October, November, December, which is historically one of the most important times to sell wine in the wine business, right? So historically, Q4 has accounted for 35 to 40% of sales for the entire year. In fact, I've worked at companies in my past where 60% of our annual business was done in June and October. You know, I mean, just an enormous amount of business. In recent years, the percentage has decreased. You've seen it. We've all seen it. Realistically, since COVID, we've seen more and more retailers not willing to buy 3 months worth of inventory in October, right? So now there are still some opportunities that can arise through OND, where in the past, if you didn't have everything in place in September, you're done, right? All you're doing is trying to build volume. But what we've seen now is that it has gone down a little bit. So Q4 in 2022 contributed 28% of sales, right? So let's say it's a little less than a third of the annual business was during Q4, which is OND, October, November, December. So that's much higher than Q2 and Q3. But it means that you've got to build your business outside of just OND, which didn't always used to be the case. This data is from Statista, for example, just for your edification. And then the other interesting find is that consumer preferences for choosing wine over other alcoholic beverages dominate the market share for special occasions. So that's the piece in the wine business that gets really interesting is people drink more in the holidays. They buy more expensive wines in the holidays. And also when you go to somebody's house for an at-home event, more often than not, you're bringing a bottle of wine. Right. So it gives us a lot more opportunity to sell, where in other holidays we share with spirits and beer and seltzers and all that. So this slide on the next, and I promise this whole thing is not statistics. I'm the one who gets to try to make statistics sound fun, which is the story of my life. But what this does tell us here, if you look in this kind of lighter blue, that's wine. You know, if you're at a bar, the share of alcohol preference across the general consumer, you know, wine is one of the lowest, right? Hard seltzer being the absolute lowest, and wine the second. At a casual party, we're the second choice. At home consumption, we're the second choice. In restaurant, wine leads to the top, right? Which is why all of us, Winesellers pre-COVID was over 50% on premise, because it's something that lends itself well to who we are, right? But then when you look at the special occasion, there's our opportunity. And as we go into October, November, December, it's all special occasions, right? We're going to discuss 4 major holidays during OND, but you can see it right here. That's where we really shine, is special occasions. So that's why we put so much emphasis on the holidays, both on an executive level as well as a local level, but also why we're having this whole presentation about the holidays, because it is important to us. And sometimes our whole numbers can be made by putting ourselves in the right position to be chosen as that special occasion wine. One other thing that I found interesting and recently found, this is from a recent report, that social gatherings last year, this goes by age group, right? So this is just general social gatherings. It's not holidays. But as you can see, the younger generation, only 15% will choose wine as what they bring to a party, right? Once you reach 35, that number goes up to 28%. Then once you reach 45, finally you become the number one choice, right? So it gives us this really short window where we have to grab on, which is why right now we talk about this older generation that is a huge amount of business for us. And how do we get to the younger generation? Because right now, especially now, 21 to 34 wine becomes the 4th or 5th choice of what you'll take to a party. So that's what all of us are focusing on, is how do we get to that 15% and how do we make that number higher, right? And then once we get to 35 and then 45 and up, how do we maintain that piece? How do we get a piece of that 28 to 30%? So again, it's sometimes not the sexiest part of the wine business. We all get into this industry because we love history, we love the passion and family and all this stuff. But there are some statistics and numbers that help us to evaluate how we can do better business. And one of the ways we can do that is by really going after this younger generation. So trends and opportunities. One of the things we saw, the red is December of 23. So there's a lot of negative there, and we're not going to harp on the negative. But what we are going to show is that price point of 11 to 25 did not decline as much as the rest of the price points, right? So as an overall, we saw a decline. But again, remember that decline a lot of times comes from the major big companies that are in every outlet across the country. But as we see this decline here, we know that 11 to 25 segment is showing signs of life, right? It's declining less, it's getting a smaller spread, and all of a sudden we expect to see that 11 to 25 continue to grow as we come into this year, which we have seen so far this year. You can't get accurate statistics from companies right now for 2024 because they wait till the year's done, typically. But we are seeing that 11 to 25 segment turning around, starting to grow, and we are expecting in December of 24 that number to be a positive, right? So that's the price point we'll mainly focus on today as well, 11 to 25. Sparkling wine has been a really big hit, and this has been since 2018. You've seen a consistent increase in sparkling wine sales across the United States. At the same time, you've seen a massive price increase with things like champagne, which have traditionally owned the holidays, right? And we will talk about some champagne today, but it also, with champagne prices going up, it gives us opportunity to sell other sparkling wines. One of the things we like to showcase here are some of the tools, the sales tools that we can give to you. So this is a sales tool, a sell sheet that shows all the sparkling wines that we sell. So if you want this, please, everybody's going to have access to this presentation later, but also ask your wine sellers person, and we can edit this for your market, showcasing all the different sparkling wines we sell. It is a great tool to walk into a good retail customer and say, hey, I know it's the season. I know we're going to be selling a lot. Here's some of the options I have from one of my top suppliers. My most important supplier is what I would expect you to say there. So peak sales, sparkling wine makes up 22% of wine sales on Christmas Eve and over 50% on New Year's Eve, right? So we're talking about 2 holidays out of the 4 today where at least a quarter of the business is sparkling wine. So that's why we need to focus on this. Sparkling wine has also held strong and grown in a really tough market. The past 3 years have not been fantastic for the wine business. But again, we've seen constant growth for decades, and now it's time for us to take ourselves a little more seriously, right? And look at the business from a more strategic standpoint, as opposed to just kind of falling into business. Prosecco is a big opportunity as well. Of course, it fits within the sparkling wine segment, but it narrows a bit. So Prosecco sales grew 2.6% in 2023, and other sparkling wine alternatives also had good growth. And then sparkling wine is increasingly chosen for both special events and casual gatherings. It's easy, right? It's something that I personally do. If I'm going to somebody's house, I don't know if they like white or red, I'm not sure what I should get them, I grab a bottle of sparkling. It seems like a perfect option. Everybody loves it.
It's a perfect.
So here are a couple. Yeah, go ahead, Lee. So here are a couple options for Besserat. So maybe you want to jump in here.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you don't know what to get, bring champagne. You can never go wrong. Every hostess and host loves champagne. So, yeah, we're going to break apart our categories here, price categories. The sparkling wines, we'll talk about Basserat de Bellefond. Most of you know that all the Cuvée de Moi, which is Basserat de Bellefond, Cuvée de Moi, is a lower pressured champagne, which means that it's softer, creamier, and more pairable with food. It's also maybe a smoother style for people. And we, of course, have 90+ point ratings. We've got great history here going back to the mid-19th century. And we have a full range in that lower pressured style. So we're featuring here kind of the 3 main SKUs, which is the Brut, or we call it Blue Brut, the Blanc de Blanc, 100% Grand Cru Chardonnay, and then the Rosé Brut.
Great options, fantastic wines, and certainly something to look at. We have a lot of availability stateside as well. So even if your inventory doesn't look strong, if we have a really good opportunity, we have a lot of wine ready to sell, of all 3 of those actually.
And then the next price category is 20 to 50, and we're showing you the Carlos Ceres, which is not Cava. It is actually Sparkling Rioja, a new category that started just a couple years ago, and our friend Rafa Vivanco, who's the winemaker or lead winemaker at Carlos Ceres, was the guy sitting on the Consejo Regulador who wrote the rules for Sparkling Rioja. So we've got the OG of Sparkling Rioja here, super aggressively priced so that we got it to basically a $20 retail. Zuccardi, Sebastian's been playing with sparkling wines throughout his career. High altitude, 100% Chardonnay for the Zuccardi Blanc de Blanc. And then back to some French traditional sparkling wines with Prosper Maufoux for the Cremant de Bourgogne, Brut, and Brut Rosé.
Sorry, Lee.
Yeah, no problem. And then we have the next price category under 20 bucks. There's lots of options here. We just put a few up here for you. For more Frenchy kind of thing, we have a Blanc de Blanc from Charles Armand. Look at that BTG, perfect for, inexpensive opportunities, by the glass, celebrations, catering, all that kind of good stuff. The aforementioned Prosecco category, which is rocking and rolling. Tiamo Prosecco is one of the only organic Proseccos out there, so you have a competitive selling advantage. Your traditional method, Cava, which we're delivering to you at a very aggressive price point. As most of you know, that the region of the Penedès has experienced incredible drought with yields down as much as 60%. A lot of people raising prices. We're holding our prices. So keep an eye out for opportunities to sneak in underneath other people as they raise prices. And of course, what do the kids like? The kids like the pet nat. So we've got some pet nat for you. The Mantis from Santa Julia. That's 100% Chardonnay pet nat there. It's also no sulfites added, which I think also is a competitive selling advantage on top of being a natural wine. And then something kind of off the beaten track, Moscato d'Asti from Ricosa. It is a low ABV alternative, as well as we'll talk about it maybe being a good dessert wine when we have that at the table at home.
Excellent. Yeah. And keep in mind with these wines, the SRPs we built in here are pretty high SRPs. So you certainly could be lower than this. But that is our kind of our top line SRP. And then the by the glass should be pretty aggressive, but it should be in line for most markets. So we try to put in there a national average for you to hit. But as you can see, a lot of different things to sell. If you're in Brooklyn, sell the Mantis, right? If you're in Florida, focus on the Cava. And if you're in the Northeast like me, then Prosecco is going to be your lead. All right, low, no alcohol. Lee, I guess you can kind of jump into this as well.
Yeah, I mean, you see this growing from a very small base, and maybe it's dominated by a few large players that you see at Target, like Constellation Brands and stuff like that. But there is an opportunity out there. Obviously, younger generations drinking less or looking for healthier lifestyles. There certainly is that trend. We have quite a few non-alcoholic wines, including the sparkling option. So if somebody wants to participate in a toast and doesn't want to drink alcohol, we have the Mosfee Zero. And then we have three German alternatives, the Heinz Eifel Shine Zero, which is in that new package, a brand new wine to Winesellers. You guys work with the Shine. You've hopefully seen the Shine new label. This is in that same vein. And then we also have an estate producer called Allendorf, as well as the Dr. Pauli Noble House Riesling alcohol free.
I'll point out the two up top are pretty new. They're just really launching this year. One of the real hot categories within non-alcoholic is sparkling wine. So Mosfee Zero has just really started selling, but it's a great opportunity even if you're talking about your restaurants for New Year's Eve, right? Who want to have two separate options for either the kids or probably not the kids, but for adults that don't drink, as well as adults that do. So I think Mosfee Zero is certainly a sleeper, and it's fantastic, which is the hard thing with non-alcoholic wine, right? There's a lot of sweet, sugary wines that are not that palatable for wine drinkers, but I would say all four of ours are certainly palatable and still have great acid and not cloying in any way. All right, another category that's growing pretty well and is perfect for the holidays as we get into gifting are big reds. So we've decided to identify 6 or 7, I guess, big reds that are within our portfolio that could potentially be giftable big red wines for potentially your Napa Valley drinker, somebody that you're going to their house to give them a special bottle of kind of higher alcohol, bigger bodied wine. So Lee, I don't know if you want to get into these at all.
Yeah, do we want to do? Sure. I mean, you mentioned Napa, so we've got VII Napa. It's a single vineyard. It's actually now labeled as a single block wine at that $95 price point. The Appassimento, which is our baby Amarone, Gran Passione. And then generally the Zuccardi wines are a little bit more restrained, but the Jose Zuccardi is a more traditional wine, as Jose Zuccardi himself is a more traditional guy. So it's Malbec that tastes a little bit more like Cabernet, sees a little bit more oak to it, a little bit more extracted and bigger. The Lupo Maraviglia, which is, I believe that's Sanye method, how they concentrate that down there. And of course, a couple of Spanish options, Tarima Hill, as well as the Volvera single vineyard Tempranillo. And let's not forget about Quinta de la Rosa in the Douro Valley making some table wines. And this is their estate reserve red. Some phenomenal scores recently on those too.
Yeah, so not only great options for retail, for giftable wines, right, to a big red section, but also great options for on-premise if there's special dinners or events, if there's options to have a feature for the holidays, these are great options. So we've added the SRPs plus the by the glass prices. As Lee mentioned, the Tarima Hill is Monastrell, highly rated wine. I mean, you probably can't get a better bottle of wine for $19.99/$20.99. And then the Volvera is single vineyard, same producer, but Volvera is from La Mancha and Tarima is from Alicante. Of course, it's port season, and I promise this whole thing is not just bottle shots, but we wanted to dig into some of these trends that are working. As we get into port season, Quinta de la Rosa, Lee, if you want to just do a brief overview of Quinta de la Rosa.
Yeah, Quinta de la Rosa was brought into the family in 1917 or so, and they were selling their ports to Sandeman until about 1987, when the laws changed and allowed when Portugal joined the European Union and they were forced to accept European Union laws. There were some anti-competitive laws that kept smaller producers from producing underneath their own label. And in 1987, Quinta de la Rosa came out with their own line of ports rather than selling to Sandeman. These are all estate grown, estate produced, estate bottled wines with control from A-rated vineyards all the way to the bottle. And you see we have that full lineup. With the only thing we didn't include here is the white port, but you've got Ruby, Tawny, LBV, vintage, 10-year, 20, 30-year wines. So lots to choose from here in those cute 500 ml bottles, except for the vintage.
And a lot of availability. We have these stateside and ready to roll for the holidays.
And then dessert wines. We've kind of focused, since our Winesellers was founded really with German estate and German regional wines, along with George Duboeuf back in the day. This has always remained an essential part of our book. So we figured we'd designate a whole slide to some German Rieslings. And once we hit Spätlese kind of quality and up, we start talking about some dessert wines. So we just pointed out here a couple of dessert wines, 2 Spätleses on the sweeter side from Bolig Leonard, the Peaceborder Goldtropfen Spätlese, as well as the Dr. Pauli Wielener Sonnener. That looks like Bernkastel Badstube Spät. But we have those wines, as well as Auslese, Baron Auslese, the Noble House ice wine. We also have a Heinz Eifel ice wine. So these are opportunities that I think you can find both on premise, but also especially really retail, because people have desserts and they need something to go with it. And it's generally a great upsell when you're on premise and almost an essential thing, or even a good gift to bring over to somebody's house. If it's not sparkling wine, let's bring a bottle of dessert wine to have with dessert.
Yeah, a great option, and I think it's something that sometimes we forget about, which is why it's important during this type of season. Germany goes very well with a lot of different holidays.
Some more dessert wines, just some alternatives. A very affordable late harvest Torrontés from Santa Julia. That's a 500 ml bottle there. It's concentrated Torrontés, so super aromatic, full of orange blossoms and citrus fruit and everything nice. And then Zuccardi Malamato means Malbec a la Manera de Oporto. And it also has the double entendre of meaning kind of bad love or forbidden love. So it's a fun little play on words, but it's 100% Malbec made just like an LBV.
And does very well in Winebow Southeast markets. So the rest of you Winebow markets should definitely take note of it. And then large format, lastly. We talked about these producers, so I'll kind of talk over this, but we do have large formats These are all available, readily available in our warehouse in California. So certainly something to look into. It's the other thing during the holidays when we talk about giftable wines, but also when we talk about your restaurants, right? Everybody's looking for large format. We certainly have more than this, but these are the ones we have in stock now and are readily available. If large format are something that you have a restaurant or a retailer that's really trying to get behind and build, speak to your wine cellars person, because there's a lot of different things we could do, not just these four.
Yeah, these are mags, so you know what the
Yeah.
pricing is. Yep.
All right, now gifting. So 33% of Americans spent over $50 on a bottle of alcohol in 2022, which is compared to 24% in 2021. We put that in there because, one, we keep hearing bad things about the economy, which, you know, we all feel, right? We see pricing, we see things going higher. But gifting wine and spending more money on wine is still happening and is consistently happening in 2023 as well as this year. So this is where your premium products and your premiumization, those higher average per bottle spent is for gifting, right? So that's where we have the opportunity to sell fine wine, right? You always have that opportunity in restaurants, but when it comes to retail, especially the seasons where gifting is happening is your opportunity to slide in there with some wines that you may not have had that opportunity if you went to them in March or April, right? Two of the things that we're going to identify today, or a couple of things that we're going to identify today, are wines with opportunity for gifting. Traditionally, right, again, there's a lot of different things that could potentially work, but traditionally, champagne and classic regions have always been a big piece of gifting, and then highly rated wines obviously are going to do really well there. So we've identified in champagne, of course, as we spoke, Besserat de Bellafon. This is their vintage champagne, so 2008 vintage, which is current, with an SRP of $143.99. Great opportunity to gift. Barolo, Barbaresco, these are regions that your general consumer knows. I can't tell you how often when somebody comes to my house, they bring me a bottle of Barolo as a gift because it's, you know, considered what? The wine of kings and the king of wines, right? So Ricosa Barolo Reserva is what we're showcasing here for $52.99. Incredible bottle of wine. The traditional Barolo for them is lower priced, of course. There are a lot of opportunities with the Ricosa winery when it comes to this. Burgundy. So our producer here that we are identifying with this Premier Cru Meursault is Prosper Mafou, which is owned by the FIFO family. They're one of the largest landholders in Burgundy, and really a large amount of Premier Cru and Grand Cru vineyards they own. So certainly something to take a look at. Also, their winemaker is Nadine Goublon, who is France's only and first female winemaker of the year. So she is certainly a big name and is making fantastic wines. Rioja, another region that people are traditionally gifting and know very well, especially with Reserva and Grand Reserva, but Carlos Harris, which is our winery, which dates back to the early 1900s, owned now by the Vivanco family. Port, which we've talked about a little bit today, but Quinta de la Rosa, as Lee had mentioned, and then Napa with Winesellers. Then when it comes to highly rated wines, you look no further than Zuccardi, right? Anything you need from any price point from $30 all the way up to, you know, a few $100s, we have them. We have in stock now 3 100-point wines: Supercal 2019, Gravascal 2018, Pedra Infinita 2016, all 100-point wines. We are just about to release the 2020 Supercal and Gravascal, which are both rated 98 points, which Megan will get from me soon, the allocations for that. But certainly these are really great wines to be showcasing in the right places with the right customers. And then we still have some out there in the market, Concreto 2021, which is a number 43 on the Wine Spectator Top 100, which is still in a lot of markets. We've shifted into 22 in some places, but we still have 21 as well. And realistically, as I mentioned, Zuccardi wines, if you're looking for 90+ point ratings, you can find them at any price point there, and certainly worth looking towards. All right, so now we're going to talk about the major holidays. So this is a slide that we put together, which or Heather put together actually, that comes from this is overall holiday drink consumption, right? So overall, the average number of drinks consumed on a holiday by gender. So men are drinking 3.5, glasses of whatever it may be, and women are drinking close to 3. The number one seller for all holidays. So when we total up all O&D holidays, the number one seller is champagne. So certainly a good opportunity. Number 2 is wine. So as we dig deeper into the holidays, we'll showcase this same slide for each holiday so you can see what the biggest opportunities are. But I would like to point out from the beginning, number 1 and number 2, consumed beverages of alcohol during holidays overall is champagne number 1 and wine number 2. So I think that's an important fact for you guys to know and realize, because the consumers that are walking into your stores and your restaurants, more often than not, this is the season for wine drinking, right? Or wine gifting, as we mentioned earlier. Lee, I think you were going to take this. This is a new campaign that's coming from the Wine Institute.
Yeah, and you'll it's a response to kind of, the neo-prohibitionist movement. Karen McNeil, I think, said on social media that she hates dry January, and then it kicked off all this back and forth. And this was their answer of something other than I hate dry January, which has come out of October, which is meant to feature kind of, we talked about this in the last one, where wine has a history of bringing people together, a communal aspect, a historically communal social aspect that is positive, dating back to the beginnings of mankind kind of thing. So hopefully people can see this, and hopefully it makes a little bit of an impact. I like this better than Sober October.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think it does lend itself to what we've been discussing, right? This talks about, Come Over October talks about the culture, the pairing with food, the historical significance, all the things that we've discussed in previous Winesellers University. So I think all of us have to be on that same page, and we've learned a lot through these different series to help us to push and push this with consumers, right? To disconnect wine from the overall alcohol and connect it more with history, culture, gatherings, sustainability of nature, all that stuff that we all know and fell in love with when it came to wine. All right, Halloween. So this is your first holiday. This is coming up in now about 1 month, right? 34 days away. Most of you who have children, you're used to going around trick-or-treating from house to house. If you're like me, you also probably have a little Yeti in your hand, which includes some nice wine inside the Yeti, right? Or something else you can carry with you. But the history of Halloween, we're not going to go too deep into this, but it's a little bit fun to look back and see where it comes from. So this is, it originated with the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain, which is a pagan religious festival where people would light bonfires and wear costumes to ward off ghosts, right? I think all of us might not know the name, but we know kind of that's how it started. But then Pope Gregory III designated it at November 1st as a time to honor all the saints. And soon All Saints' Day was tied in with this Samhain holiday. So the evening before was known as All Hallows Eve, which then became Halloween, right? Halloween. That's where it comes from. Over time, it evolved into day of activities like trick-or-treating, jack-o'-lanterns, festive gatherings, all that sort of stuff, eating candy, all that. But it really did have its origins in pagan that then moved to a little more non-pagan traditions. And now we have fun with it. So one of the things, we're not going to go too deep into display building. We're not going to go deep into it at all, actually. We considered it, but it's not our place to do. But one of the things we did want to talk about is displays during the holidays, right? So for those of you that do have retailers, one of the things that the big companies really outpace most of us in the small fine wine or medium-sized fine wine business is the displays. And we all know that a huge percentage, somewhere upwards of 80% of consumers that walk into a store have no idea what they're buying before they purchase it, especially when it comes to wine, right? They have no clue. They walk in and they see what's on feature, they see what's displayed in front of them, what label looks nice, and that's what they buy. So that's where the playing field is evened for people like us. Because when people are walking in, they're not saying, I'm buying Apothic, I'm buying 19 Crimes. They're saying, I'm going in there, I'm going to see what I can buy that looks nice and is on sale, right? So we've got to get our wines featured. So a great opportunity to build business during OND is the display, right? Halloween retail displays, as you can see, some of these are because suppliers gave them a casket, stand, right? I get it. But other ones, they've just been built up floor stacks that they put in a couple tombstones and a skeleton, and we got ourselves a really nice, beautiful display. So if you are a retail salesperson, especially somebody new, this is your time to shine, right? To use your creative side, build amazing displays with great pricing in some of your great winery partners, and you're going to see the wine fly off the shelf. So we thought it was fun to take a look at, but certainly there's a big retail application in Halloween. So we'll jump into a couple different options, but first and foremost is the retail side, right? So we have a lot of wines we could have put here, but we're covering a lot of wines today. So two wines that we identified as really good options for nice packaging, colorful, stand off the shelf type of wines are La Maldita, which is made by the Vivanco family, who own Carlos Serras as well, which is 100% Garnacha from Rioja, and then Lecco Punk, which is organic Tempranillo. So these are bright, vibrant packages, really good floor display options. They kind of tie with the holiday, with La Maldita being kind of like the crazy one or the wicked one. You might see the that also said as that. So these are good two options. Some of the wines that are in retail for Halloween, they're going to be a little more fruit forward, colorful, vibrant, and a little bit lower priced, right? It's not necessarily a holiday that people are looking to spend tons of money on wine, but it is social gatherings at somebody's house. So you want something that stands out like your costume stands out. So that's why we've identified these two today. And then at home consumption. So when you're drinking at your house, you're having a party at your house, then you're probably looking at lower priced, easy drinking wine that are going to be applicable to everybody who steps foot in your house, right? You're having a Halloween party. You're not showing, Zuccardi Gravascal, right? You're going out with things like Bellafina Pink Moscato, which is $10.99, $6 by the glass. La Fiera Pinot Grigio, nice, easy drinking Pinot Grigio from the Veneto, or from Della Venezia, which is $8.99. And then Santa Julia Family Estate, right? Santa Julia being one of our largest winery. This is their entry level tier, which at $10.99 way outpaces, other wines at that price point. But this is their Family Estate, which is the new packaging of Plus, for those of you that knew the Plus tier. And this is their Malbec. Or you may also be bringing a thing like a box wine, right? Because you're going to appeal to a lot of different people. So Montcrevet Rosé in a box, which will be about $24.99. Really easy drinking, great bottle of wine. All of these wines go really well with sweeter style foods, which you're going to have obviously for Halloween. All right, I think that got us through Halloween. Quickly on Thanksgiving here. So Thanksgiving, which is one of the biggest wine holidays of the year, certainly something that all of us are excited and looking forward to, I hope. I know I am. But the Thanksgiving holiday started in the Americas, right? It dates back to 1621 in November. But the origins of Thanksgiving are really about giving thanks for the harvest. So they absolutely fit perfectly with wine, right? It's around the same time that you would have harvested your wine grapes as well. Of course, the wine wouldn't be produced and done in rudimentary ways. It would have been, but not now. But still, it ties well with wine because it is something that is part of who we are as Americans. It's also part of this Thanksgiving, this thankfulness for what the harvest has brought us, which is certainly what wine is as well. What I will say, what was put in here, which I thought was interesting, is one, nowadays we're looking at things like turkey and all that sort of stuff. But in the past, historians really believe that Thanksgiving meal consisted mainly of seafood, mussels. It was served with curds, which is a dairy product, lobster, bass, clams. I think all of that all that stuff was really part of the first Thanksgiving holiday. So if you want to, match up your Thanksgiving a little differently than the rest, certainly go with the seafood angle. So here's the consumption. Right now, wine is the number one choice, and we all know that, right? If you go to somebody's house for Thanksgiving, more often than not, you are bringing a bottle of wine, right? Unless you decide to bring a bottle of whiskey number 3, which makes you a little bit of a sadist at a family gathering. But wine is your number one option. So it's our real opportunity for us to sell. Your average man is drinking over 3 glasses of wine on Thanksgiving. We all know we're not average, but this is the average, right? And then your average woman is drinking about 2.5 glasses of wine. So if you have a couple that's together, that's 4.5 glasses. You've got a bottle of wine per couple. So there's obviously a lot of opportunity to sell and to move through consume wine during the holidays. Just a couple of nice displays. Another nice feature that I'd like to mention is Thanksgiving is a big retail holiday, right? We don't talk too much about on-premise for a holiday like Thanksgiving. Because more often than not, you're going to somebody's house. And if you are, it means you're buying wine at a retail store. So it becomes a huge retail opportunity, which is why you see so many companies make up these huge, bountiful retail displays that, again, they help sell wine. So if you're creative, if you're not a merchandiser, but you're a creative salesperson, putting together displays like this can certainly help to grow your business and expand your footprint and get a lot of respect from your accounts as well. So again, as we mentioned, it's mostly about at-home consumption. So we wanted to talk about a couple of our wines that pair well with traditional Thanksgiving foods. Lee, do you want to go through this? You want me to?
I'll give you a little bit of a break, and I know that
Yeah.
we're running out of time here. We got a few more things to do, so I'll
Yeah.
keep it pretty brief. But just some appetizer type of wine, Gran Passione Prosecco. Everybody wants to start the evening with some sparkling. Crisp whites, which are popular. Certainly French Sauvignon Blanc from Les Charmel from Touraine, Loire Valley. And then for the new Shine Dry Riesling might go well with a wide variety of appetizers. Your main course. There's so much here that you have to find a wine that can match with a lot of different things. So we put down some kind of medium-bodied reds and maybe some fuller and lighter whites that can be pretty versatile. So Prosper Mofu, Burgundian Pinot Noir, Winesellers for California Pinot Noir for something maybe a little bit bigger. Pratch, Rottenpool, and Gruner is a pretty versatile wine that can stand up to a lot of different foods, including things like asparagus, which are impossible to match. And then Bernkasseler Bachstuber Riesling Cabinet for a slightly sweeter option for those of you that like all those yams and caramelized stuff. Yuck. And then desserts, we mentioned how important that there's always desserts at these celebrations where we normally don't have them. So don't forget about the dessert wines. We've talked about all these already.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we like about these presentations is you guys get these later. So if you're looking to push retail about what wines you would like to showcase in your Thanksgiving end cap, here's a perfect example. If you're also looking to bring wine to a Thanksgiving event, here we give you some really good options here, which I think part of the consultant part of our business, which is, as we discussed in previous Winesellers universities, is coming back more and more. That's part of what this is, right? Being the expert on which one of your wines is perfect for each holiday, why it's perfect, what the pricing is, what the packaging looks like, all there in tied up in a bow for you. So we've also identified a handful of perfect wines for Thanksgiving outside of what we just showcased. So I will just briefly blow through these, Lee. Dr. Tanish, which is this one here is their fine herb. So you've got a Mosel Riesling at a really approachable price point, which actually 2 years ago was also a Wine Spectator Top 100. Really good value for that. Then Shine, which is from Heinz Eiffel, which is made by the Romerhoff family, who's been producing for hundreds of years in the Mosel. And this is their Gewürztraminer. One of the perfect pairings for Thanksgiving is absolutely Gewürztraminer. We have an estate Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand, right, from the Ottawere Valley, and that is O2. So this is new to most markets in the past couple of years. Really a great option to take a step up and above things like C-Pro, right, which are kind of your entry-level New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs. Pratch Gruner, as Lee mentioned, another added benefit for your Thanksgiving parties is it's 1 liter, right? So it's perfect, gives you more glasses and more availability. And honestly, there's virtually nothing that this wine doesn't pair extremely well with. I'll say that on record and on recording. Vaquita, which is a claret from Santa Julia, right, from Mapu. This is a blend of Viognier and
Malbec and Torrontés.
sorry, not Viognier. Yeah, Malbec and Torrontés, predominantly Malbec. So it is a claret, but it gives you a great uplifting, kind of vibrant red wine that pairs really well with game meats and all sorts of things, right? And then, of course, Pinot Noir. Thanksgiving, Pinot Noir go hand in hand. So this is the Bourgogne Pinot from Prosper Mofu. And then we also have a Pinot from Winesellers, which is from Monterey. Okay, Hanukkah. So who wants to take Hanukkah? You want to do, Lee?
Why don't we let Michelle jump in
Yeah.
here?
I can do it if
Perfect.
you'd like. Yeah. Yay. So Hanukkah, we put this on here because, well, unfortunately, Winesellers does not have kosher wine. However, we do have wines that pair very well with some of the more traditional dishes of Hanukkah. Basic overview, it is a Jewish festival commemorating the recovery of Jerusalem and subsequent eradication of the Second Temple at the beginning of the Maccabean revolt against the I cannot pronounce a lot of these words, but Seleucid Empire in the 2nd century BCE. The story goes that 1 day's worth of oil miraculously lasted for 8 days, and that's why there are 8 lights on the menorah with the 1 extra to light the candles for each night. Am I playing this, or are we gonna?
No, I think we'll skip
we're out of
past
time.
because of timing, but this is a great video that showcases what Hanukkah is. With
Very funny
yeah.
educational video. She's adorable. We love Amy Farrah Fowler.
So we'll
We can
send
go to
this
the
out
next slide.
and you will see it.
Yes. So here are the more traditional dishes that are consumed, and Hanukkah is mainly an at-home consumption holiday. So you have your latkes, my personal favorite, which are potato pancakes. Prosecco is a fantastic pairing with the kind of the oiliness of the potato pancake. Brisket is usually a traditional offering there too for dinner. Of course, our Zaccardi line, the Q Cabernet is a fantastic pairing, as well as the Concreto Malbec. Kugel tends to be a little bit on the sweeter side, so the Lafayette Moscato or the Heinz Eifel Spätlese Riesling are great pairings for that. And lastly, Sufganio is what I think is how it's pronounced. Basically, jelly-filled donuts with powder. Delicious. And I think the white port, with a little bit of its dryness, paired with that donut, excellent.
Great.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you, Michelle.
Good pronunciation.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good job. That was a hard one. That's why I passed it along. All right, Christmas. So we have 2 holidays left. I will move quick because I know we're a little tight on time. But we all know where Christmas started, right? It was popularized very early on, and it comes from pagan origins. But the Christmas tree was really came from native Germany in about 1840, and that's where the holiday kind of evolved and became a little bit more religious and tied into the birth of Christ and all these other things that we tie it to. So the ancient tradition of eating fish on Christmas Eve dates from the Roman Catholic custom of abstinence from meat and dairy products on the eve of certain holidays, which include Christmas. So we will discuss the Feast of Seven Fish. The number 7 is rooted back in ancient times. It could be connected to multiple Catholic holidays. In fact, the 7 seems repeated more than 700 times in the Bible. And it also, according to Roman Catholic Church, 7 are the sacraments, the 7 days of creation, as well as the 7 deadly sins. So 7, very important number. Feast of Seven Fish, very important as well.
I wanted to also add on here, it wasn't on here, that's mainly a Southern Italian tradition. So that's why also the seafood incorporated.
Yeah. Okay, so retail displays, again, great opportunity. This is your gifting time. We're going to showcase later what categories are the highest here. But like I said, make your name for retail displays. Believe me, if you are a sales rep and you have some good retail customers, if they see you making these incredible displays for any holiday, I promise you will get more floor space than your competitors. I absolutely promise you. They'll say, we need to let Diana in North Carolina, hopefully there's a Diana on the call, to do more events, to do more floor space for us. Because look at these beautiful displays. They make the floor look better. They make the account look better. So anyway, at home consumption, again, Christmas is traditionally at home, all right, especially if you're celebrating Christmas. So we broke it into 3 of the major things that you will see people eat during Christmas. So prime rib dinner is, of course, something that's really traditional for Christmas. Michelle, do you want to take these 3 slides since you did them?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
So prime rib dinner, you want some big bold reds to go with your prime rib and all your fixings. The Zaccardi Q Red Blend is a fantastic option. The Santa Julia Reserva Cabernet, because these tend to be bigger and bolder from Argentina. Zaccardi Poligono San Pablo Malbec, not necessarily really big and bold, but very food friendly, good amount of acid. And last, certainly not least, and I think a fantastic pairing with prime rib is our Volver Single Vineyard Tempranillo. Lovely pairings. The next one I'm going to just breeze through. That family picture, if you know, you know. The Seven
Yeah.
Fishes dinner. We have our ricotta agave, which is great with any kind of seafood. The middle is a Nebbiolo Longue DOC from Ricossa as well. Pretty much Italian Pinot Noir. A great acid. It's going to cut through any kind of red sauce that you have and still not overpower the fish. And last but not least, the Besserat de Bellefond Brut Rosé Champagne for the extra special occasion. Rosé Champagne goes fantastic with red sauce, clams, any kind of seafood. Last, and I think this is Lee's personal favorite, some spiral ham.
Yes.
A little bit of a little bit of saltiness, also a little bit of sweetness of the ham. You can't go wrong with Chardonnay, especially the Tortoise Creek Chardonnay out of California. You also have from the same producer, the Les Charmel Pinot Noir. Again, still we are with red wine, but it's not a heavy, heavy red wine. The body is perfect for something that would pair well with ham. And Montgravet Rosé. I love rosé during the holidays because I feel like it's a type of wine that just goes pretty much with any type of cuisine, with the exception of like a prime rib or steak. But when we're talking about fish, talking about ham, chicken, poultry, anything like that, rosé is a very good option to take to a dinner.
Very affordable price and would look great on a nice display, holiday display, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly, but not least, for Christmas,
Okay.
yeah,
Some a traditional Christmas drinks, Glühwein. The Germans love to make this stuff. It's a mold, basically a mold style wine. There's a little recipe there if you want to make your own, but we recommend doing a not so costly wine to blend with these. So Tortoise Creek and the La Fiera, you're not going to break the budget, and it's going to add a really nice kick of flavor to the spices and everything that the Glühwein and the mulled wine ask for. So we also have some organic options from Santa Julia, the organic Cabernet. And then we also, if you want it to be a little bit on that lighter side, the Tortoise Creek Pinot Noir are great wine options to make these recipes with.
great. Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
All right, New Year's Eve. We all know the holiday, right? One of the most important. We all tie our entire year on this one holiday, at least in general, if you're a calendar year company like we are. But its earliest recorded festivities for New Year, they date back some 4,000 years ago to Babylon. So this is tied into human culture. It is something we've always celebrated, the coming of a new year. So typically they obviously happen on December 31st. And then consumption-wise, obviously, without question, number one is champagne, right? The number one option. Number two being tequila, number three being vodka, which is, somewhat understandable, especially in today's climate. But number one being champagne. So here's your opportunity. Your average drinker, average male drinks 5.1 glasses of champagne or shots of tequila on New Year's Eve, and woman drinks 3.7. So again, you're talking about pretty high consumption level. So you want to get your champagne into a restaurant or a retailer so that it can be consumed, right? 5 glasses is 1 bottle of champagne per person. So when you're doing your estimates for your dinner parties, 1 bottle of champagne per person is the average, right? And none of us are average, as I mentioned earlier. So of course, perfect options here, sparkling wines. Masfi Cava is a great option for a budget-friendly sparkling wine because remember, it's method traditional. It is very similar in style to champagne, obviously a much different level of price, but $11.99 for a fantastic method traditional sparkling wine from Cava. And then you have Besserat de Bellefond Grand Tradition, which is their entry-level wine we haven't discussed yet today, but under $60 on the shelf. Really a good option as well. And then Bellafina Prosecco, which is Frizzante, slightly sparkling, not fully sparkling, but $12.99 for Prosecco. And then Santa Julia Organic Blanc de Blanc, which is $14.99. And again, Blanc de Blanc champagne would be what, 10 times that price. So you got a good option here. And then don't forget about banquets and corporate events, right? It's one of the things we wanted to make sure we tied in. You'll have a list of this, so I won't go through every wine, of course. But one of the things I think we do end up forgetting, if you're an on-premise rep, you're like, everybody in retail is just focused on O&D. But there are a massive amount of banquet parties. And I've talked about this in the earlier presentation about on-premise, where myself as an on-premise sales rep, one of the opportunities I had to drive real volume in the holidays was to go to my manager and say, to my manager of my different restaurants and say, what are you doing for banquets? I know you have a corporate list, even at corporate restaurants. I know you have a list that you have to follow, But what about your banquets? What about your special events? More often than not, even Darden, Seasons, all Landry's, all these big corporations, they give full flexibility on banquets and corporate buying. So then you can offer a deal and get something great. So we've identified some really good options for bubbles for toasting based on price point, as well as catering wine, right? So we've given you 5 different tiers of catering wine, ranging from $5 by the glass all the way up to 10 plus, which should be a great handout for you on-premise reps to be able to walk in and say, yeah, you need something that's $5. What do I have? Okay, La Fiera. Perfect option. Pinot Grigio, Montepulciano, Moscato. We can get into your banquets and really drive some volume. So don't forget about that. Ask the questions when you're in your accounts. What are you using? Do you have big events that I can become a part of? I'd like to get into your banquet program. So another piece of the holidays that is coming back more and more every single year. Because nowadays, obviously, we're gathering again, and corporate companies are doing these. So the past couple of years, these have picked up quite a bit. So don't forget to ask the questions. And then in conclusion, listen, holidays present a unique and significant opportunity to boost sales and strengthen your relationships with your customers. Consumers are seeking to enhance their celebration and gift-giving experiences. So understanding the nuances of holiday trends and preferences is crucial. If you can walk in and know wines that are going to pair well with this holiday, you're going to give yourself a new level of respect with your retailer and your restaurateur. By effectively showcasing a diverse selection of wines, which we tried to show you today, you can offer tailored recommendations, and you can create engaging promotional activities like displays, so that you can not only drive sales, but you can also elevate the overall experience, right? Just give yourself more respect in that store and with each consumer. Really emphasizing the joy and tradition associated with wine during the holidays. It not only enhances your brand loyalty, our brand loyalty, but it also positions you as a trusted advisor in the mind of your customers, which again, as we discussed, you're a consultant. This is your time to be a consultant and to prove that you are not just an order taker that's there to listen. You're there to also sell, right? And ultimately, leveraging the holiday spirit can lead to lasting connection and increased sales well beyond the holiday season. So as we get right now, we're in the last week of September. Here's your last opportunity to really build distribution through the next couple of weeks and then drive volume through the end of the year with innovative plans and ideas for wines you've put into those stores. So we appreciate the time and energy you guys have put into this. Thank you very much. Like I said, if you have any questions, you will get this recording as well as this PowerPoint presentation from us. Feel free to ask your local Winesellers person or myself, Lee, Heather, and Michelle. Thank you to the Winesellers team and thank you to the Wineboat team for all your time and attention. And happy O&D, now that you know what it means.
Happy sales, everybody.
Thank you so much, Matt and Lee. Happy Friday, everyone, and let's have a great O&D.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.